Good afternoon. I am Doreen Tannenbaum, UCI Strategic Initiatives and Communications Manager with Procurement Services. We have a guest presentation today from bluespace Interiors, and they are one of our furniture suppliers. And we're going to follow that presentation with supplier sourcing tips from our procurement team. That will be followed with questions and answers. The recording of today's session will be sent out via email and available on the Procurement Services website by next week. The slides are also available now, so you can access them from the calendar invite, or I will also drop them in the chat for you. And then reminding everyone that we have training guides and videos available on our training section found at the top of the procurement website. So if you would like to request a group or one-on-one training, please open up a ServiceNow ticket to set that up. Next slide, please. Thank you. And we have bi-weekly office hours every other Tuesday from 9 to 10. We invite you to join us with any questions you may have or watch us go through live demos on KFS. If you'd like the calendar invite, please send me a private message or an email and I'll forward you the link. If there are no questions within the first 15 minutes, we typically end our sessions, but we're always available for additional questions if you open up a ServiceNow ticket. We had a full session last week with lots of great questions, and our next session is April 1st. I'm going to turn it over to Snehal Bhatt to introduce our agenda and our speakers.
Thank you, Doreen. Thank you, everybody. Welcome to this session. We appreciate you all taking the time from your busy schedules to come and participate in these departmental buyer trainings. We hope that you find this valuable and helpful. As Doreen mentioned, we have guest speakers today. We are going to have bluespace Interiors talk about their products, their offerings, and how they can support you. Hopefully you'll get some good insights into their offerings. After that, we are going to talk a little bit about the supplier sourcing process, some of the things that you need to be mindful of, and helpful tips and items and things that you need to be aware of when you are placing your orders, just so that we don't have to go back and forth in trying to fulfill all the requirements. So we hope you will find that very helpful and beneficial for you to listen in. And then again, we'll take any questions and answers at the end. Before bluespace Interior starts, the next slide. I just want to remind everybody that following and adhering to all the regulations and compliance requirements is everybody's responsibility. Everybody on campus, anybody who is placing orders for any items needs to be aware of the policies, and they're all accountable for it. Here's a list of a few of the policies and the compliance requirements that we have. On the left side, we have compliance requirements from UCOP through BUS 43. That's a supply chain and procurement policy. And as being a public university, we do have obligations to the California state. We have to follow the public contracts codes from California. Uniform guidance is the requirements from the federal government. Since we receive millions of dollars in federal aid, we are also required to follow all the uniform guidance and FAR requirements from federal government. The small business first policy is a UC policy, and covered services is actually a UC policy and now also a Senate Bill S820 state requirement. So you are required to follow many of the different policies when you make purchases. Also want to make sure that everybody understands that if somebody makes purchases using their personal funds, and if they are not legitimate purchases or are not approved or does not follow the policy, the individual may be responsible for making their own, from their own pocket and not getting reimbursed for their expenses. I think I've said this before, but I just wanted to reiterate that I had not mentioned this to everybody in the last couple of presentations. So I wanted to make sure that I re-emphasize the importance of everybody following the policies and knowing about them. Next slide. All right. We are now going to hand it over to bluespace for them to go ahead and make their presentation.
Hello, everybody. I'm Ken Gordon from bluespace Interiors. Thank you so much for this opportunity to share. We appreciate your time today and your support over the last several years and, in fact, decades. Next slide. Our goals today are to cover a couple things and get you on your way in 20 minutes. First of all is a brief history of our partnership with UCI, then an introduction to our team, and then some budget advantages. The word on the street is that there's a bit of a budget crisis at UCI, and we believe that we can help with that. And then talk a bit about the evolution of the office and how things are changing so quickly these days, and how we can help you to forecast into the future and what to do there. And then talk about the obscura, the things that you may not think about for bluespace, but we do every day with the University of California. And then finally, we'll have time for question and answers at the end and a quiz question. And the quiz question will be something that someone from our team will share during this presentation. So pay attention. There'll be a $200 gift card to the first person that drops it in chat once the question is asked. Actually answers the question correctly first after the question is asked. So pay attention and join us. Next slide, please. About our partnership. We have been an approved vendor for over 27 years. We're approved for commercial contract furniture. And I'll expand on what that is and maybe what it isn't as we go through the slide. We've had over 10,000 transactions with UCI. So we know how the system works. We know what's expected of you and what's expected of us. You don't have to worry about training us as a vendor with every transaction. We handle everything from a single chair order, which we gladly accept, to an entire building of furniture, or an entire complex of building. If you look at what's going on Jamboree and the new hospital complex that's being built there by the University of California, Irvine, UCI Health, we're providing every stitch of furniture that's in those buildings. Our focus is on client experience and outcomes. We're not like an online dealer where there's no personality to it. We have a dedicated team of people that touch UCI in some way every day. And next slide, please. And Samantha from our team, who is our business development manager and I report up to, will share a bit about our team.
Yeah, good afternoon. And as Ken mentioned, there are many people supporting the UCI campus and all of you on the phone today. So these are many of the faces that work behind the scenes supporting and in the field with you guys on any project that we work on. We are a woman-owned organization and a minority-owned organization servicing Southern California for more than 40 years. So really exciting to see that we've been partners for more than half of that with you. And on this team alone, there are 5 associates that have actually been with bluespace Interiors for 20 plus years. So really since the infancy of our relationship, and continue to work on your account today with Ken. If you want to jump to the next one.
All right, so the next part I'm going to take and we'll share with you a bit about how we feel we can help you in the current budget climate. Next slide. First of all is a range of choices. We offer everything from mid-market furniture to top shelf furniture. So whether you're doing something that's in the back of the house on a super tight budget, or you're really trying to wow donors, we've got furniture that can meet all those needs. And we understand that not every budget is equal and not one solution fits all at the university. We're going to ask questions when you ask us to help you and determine what it is you're trying to do and then provide solutions that meet that budget. Next slide. Next is some information about our vendor partners, which, we've got nothing to sell if we don't have manufacturers that make it. Samantha will share about that.
Yeah, we have amazing manufacturer relationships. Technion, Kimball, Hahn, and KI are just a few to mention here. And we work with commercial grade manufacturers. So everything that we will be doing with you guys is always commercial grade. So you know that it's been BIFMA tested, which means it's going to withstand weight requirements and everyday use. We understand that A purchase with us is a purchase that needs to last for a very long time, and we work with manufacturers that are going to support that. And when there are opportunities to support a local manufacturer for one of your projects, somebody may be manufacturing right here in Southern California, we work with them as well to implement them into your projects. We have hundreds of manufacturers to pull from, but you'll see many of these on your projects, and they all meet the standards that Sneha was mentioning earlier for contract compliance and requirements needed at UCI. You want to jump to the next one?
All right. Samantha mentioned BIFMA. That's an industry term that probably all of you are not familiar with. It's the Business and Institutional Furniture Manufacturers Association. I'm glad I was able to say that without stammering. And what they really do is test furniture for both safety, quality, durability, and sustainability. And they put out industry standards that meet that. So the furniture that you're buying from us today should be around in 15, 20 years. And the term that is commonly used in our industry is it should ugly out before it wears out. So that's the type of furniture we provide. Next slide, please. Another thing that BIFMA tests for and that is very important to us is sustainability. What is in the materials that you're using? What are they harmful materials? Are they durable materials? Where did they come from? And what's their impact both in their production and when they get to your place? Are they off-gassing with volatile organic compounds that are going to make you sick? BIFMA measures for all that, and that is something that's important to us. Now, when it comes to sustainability, it's really important to the University of California. And what we try to do is bake it in. We're not even going to bring up sustainability to you in most cases. We're going to pick manufacturers and products that meet the standards to where it's not even part of the conversation. But from a budget standpoint, most importantly, you're not paying extra for that. We're starting with manufacturers that already meet it, both on a quality and a sustainability source. So it's baked in, as we would like to say. Next slide.
Yeah. To Ken's point on that as well, we do report back to UCOP on all of the purchases and the sustainability output from each product. So we're happy to support that and continue to support that for UCOP and UCI.
Correct. Another way that we help you with budget is materials. The quickest way to make a $400 chair cost $700 is by putting some bougie fabric on it. And what we try to do is give you palettes of color that meet the durability that you need and expect at the university. They're going to meet your needs, but also are sustainable, but don't drive up the cost. And so we have preset palettes that are available that you can pick from and use as a starting point when selecting furniture. It takes for a lot what is the least desirable part of a project, which is picking finishes, and gives you a foundation to start on. Next slide, please. Most importantly, our time and experience and our team's experience with you guys helps. We've got local knowledge, so we know what's typical, we know what's acceptable, we know where the guide rails are, we know the codes, we know basically by who you are when you reach out to us, what you're asking for and how to respond. So there's not as much back and forth as if you're dealing with a vendor who doesn't have that experience. Next slide. Here's a good budget example. This is an entry-level office, complete, with a height adjustable desk, an ergonomic chair that meets UC's strict standards, a mobile file with a cushion that can become an extra seat, a cabinet for printer or coffee more often. It's got convenience power on the surface. This thing out the door with design, with product, with installation, and tax even is $3,500. You compare that in the industry, the average cost for a startup office is $8,000. Not many departments that I know of at UCI have a startup for a new faculty at $8,000. So we've got solutions that can get you started. Another advantage of this, again, is flexibility. There's nothing in here that's handed. It's ambidextrous. You can use it in an office where the door is on the right or the left, and no parts or process need to be changed. So from a standardization standpoint, it's a great entry level at just $3,500, and that helps with budgets. Next slide, please. A bit on what we are not. We are not a source for budget import, and I'll use the term junk furniture. At least twice a week, we get inquiries about, I found a chair on Amazon for $79. You guys have a contract, so I'm sure you can get it to me for $59. That's not what we are, and that's not the furniture we provide. That furniture usually has a very short warranty, as where most of ours are lifetime. It's not been tested for safety and for sustainability. We don't know what's in the contents of a chair like that. The day two service, we call it, when that caster breaks or the cylinder leaks and the seat drops or the padding goes out on the seat, who are you going to call to fix that? And then it comes unassembled. And one of the most important things is the acquisition cost of this chair. If you're, as a department buyer, are asked by Professor Plum to go out and buy this chair, and the first thing you hear when you contact us is we can't provide that chair, or we don't provide that chair. And then you go to procurement, you wrap up the furniture buyer, and eventually it bubbles up to SNAE Hall for approval and probably across campus to EH&S. The cost of UCI to buy this chair is now right up with where they should have got. And if they get it approved, they're still going to get a junky chair for $300 worth of people's time and effort. As a department buyer, you're the first line of defense. We're the second, then procurement's the third. Let's stop it from even getting to procurement. So that's just a bit on what we're not, and the rest will be on what we are. So next slide. All right, changing gears and talking about change in the office. The office is evolving, and it is evolving quicker now, more quickly now than ever before. Next slide. People are working in public spaces. They expect their private space to be more like a public space, be able to pull people in and have a huddle meeting and then get back to their heads down work. Everything is in flux. Next slide. Amenities that we never would have thought of 15 years ago are popping up in the workspace. And I have not seen a ping pong table at UCI yet, but they're common in the workplace these days because employers are trying to entice people to come back to the office and maintain people, that the good talent that they have. So things like this. And yes, we sell ping pong tables. Next slide, please. All right. So this one's a little bit of a silly picture of robots working on laptops, but just to say, the advancement in technology and what's going on in the office is at a pace we've never seen. I'm a baby boomer, but I use AI in my job every single day. That is not going to go away. That's not a trend, and I think it's only going to speed up from here. And I'll give you a good example of workplace technology. Last week, and I'm not going to say who, I was in a Zoom meeting with somebody, and we're poring over details on the screens. And that person was in their Tesla on autopilot driving. So not getting judgy, but those are things that both would have never happened 15 years ago. So next slide. The other thing that's changing quickly is documents. Everything's in the cloud and in the ether space now. Documents used to anchor us to one place, and they used to require that in our space, we had a lot of space to keep those documents, and that need has blown away. We just don't have documents, and even people in private offices often say, oh, I need a file cabinet and I need overhead storage. And then when we talk to them about them and ask them what they have in there now, they have stuff from 5 years ago. We just don't need that, and it doesn't anchor us. Next slide. So where we work is in flux, how we work is in flux. So is the solution to get an old desk and Wi-Fi and everybody work on the beach? Probably not. But how do you address and how do you buy furniture for 15, 20 years from now? It's supposed to last. And yet at the same time, you don't even know what's going to be going on in the office 5 years from now. So next slide. The answer to that in both public spaces and private spaces is flexibility, hackability, moldability, and being able to shake things up and move things around. This is an example from the Paul Mirage School of Business, a graduate student space. Everything in this picture is on wheels. I think there's a small table in the back that's not, but it's designed to be picked up and moved easily. So one of the answers is, and next slide is another example, is everything needs to be mobile. This is a typical classroom at the Department of Undergraduate Education. Even that lectern in the back is on wheels. The tables can be redesigned to be this format here, a classroom. It can be set as a conference room, put face-to-face in small breakout groups, or the tables flip and nest and can be moved out of the room just to have an open space for a gathering. So it appeals to that flexibility. Next slide, please. The last two slides were kind of public and common spaces, but in a private office, how do you adjust for adaptability and what we don't know is going to be in the future? And the answer there is commit to not committing. This is an example of a private office that we call the shapeshifter office. There's 6 different layouts you can use with these furniture pieces in a typical 120 square foot office. The renderings on the right show layout number 1, but can be easily moved around to meet the individual needs of the occupant, whether there's someone who wants to sit across from people when they meet with them, who wants to have a more open plan. But with all the accessories that are in this office, there is a bit of storage, but not as much as we used to use. Almost everything is on casters, the only exception being the height adjustable desk. And you have seating for 5 people in this office. So your office, which is heads down private most of the day, someone knocks on the door and you've got huddle space for 5. So that committing to not commit in the office is key to what we see the future of furniture buying being. Next slide. Going back to a more public space, this is a project we just worked on and are finalizing with the UCI Veteran Services Center. They came to us and said that they need a space that is adaptable. We asked them about what are the different things that you do in the room, and we won the project by coming back to them with basically 4 different layouts that met the 4 different needs, but done with the same furniture. And again, the movable parts, the parts that need to move, those lounge chairs, are on casters that lock. So what they're doing in the morning could be different than what they're doing in the afternoon. And it's easy to rearrange the furniture to meet that need. And our design team and I even reached out to my son that's in the military to apply military names to each of the layouts. So it's really personalized, but super flexible. Next slide.
Yeah. Something to consider as you guys are designing as well, or thinking about the spaces that we'll be designing with you. Recent studies showed that by 2040, there's actually going to be 9 billion people in the workspaces and on this planet. And so we are really thinking about future-proofing the space with you guys. The days of a single space being for a single person and a single function are really being asked to be challenged in the marketplace right now, and we're bringing that to the campus for you.
Very true. Very true. So on to the next part of our presentation, which are the things that we do that most of you don't think about us for every day. I call it Blue Space Obscura. And next slide, please. And Ward Smith from our LA office, he is our business development manager in the North, is going to help us and talk a little bit about architectural walls.
And master to Obscura.
There you go.
Next slide, please. So we do architectural walls, and they're modular walls, and they're also, in some cases, more fixed walls. When we do this, we come in, we work with your architect, we work with their plans to convert their conventional walls to modular walls. And then that modular wall can become part of your FF&E, which means it's deducted as the same as furniture rather than construction. It can be moved. We typically recommend this for organizations that are going to be in place for more than 10 years, because that's about how long it takes until somebody says, hey, let's move these walls. But as Ken was speaking, whenever we're designing a space, we are building in flexibility in all cases, and walls are no exception. And they're very much a future-proof object for inside a building, because you can redefine it. Next slide, please. Glass walls, solid walls, walls that hold technology, for in conference rooms, so on and so forth. They can be built out of veneer, glass, so on and so forth. Next slide. we have four, I don't want to get too far into this, but we have four different types of walls that help with acoustics. So we go from an acoustic level of 20 STC to 46 STE, which is a double pane glass wall that acts the same as a piece of drywall. So you literally can have conference rooms that are wide open glass that are giving you the same privacy as drywall. Next slide. So here's how this works. The bottom is your architectural drawing that you'd be working with on your architect, or you could be working on it with us. Above is the engineering drawing that we provide for pricing, which shows you where each piece of glass goes. Each piece of glass is numbered and labeled as it comes out of manufacturing in Toronto. So when the pieces go in, they go in evenly and together. The other nice part about our glass is we're using a 3M tape rather than a silicone, which gives us an extremely clean line. Next slide. Again, you'll get the engineering drawings with all the elevations that explain what's clear, what's frosted, if I'm a pivot door, if I'm a barn door. So lots of opportunity to make your space even more flexible beyond the furniture. Next slide. We will work with your architect, or we will work on pulling together these for you. We have all the ceiling and footing details and door details for all the requirements to get these through plan check. These are approved in Los Angeles. There is a seismic detail, which is right there at the top of the one just to the left. You'll see it going from the suspended ceiling up into the deck. So that's required when we're working in California. But all of that, our installation crew does, our internal installation crew.
All right, thank you, Ward.
Yep.
And walls are a little more complicated than buying a chair. And that's why we need a resident expert like Ward that knows all of those codes and knows how to get that through, whether it's architecture, the fire marshal, or whoever's involved. Moving on to other items that are a little more obscure. Privacy on demand units, or pods as we call them. These are increasingly popular. Sometimes you can't build out an office in a space, but you still need a space where people can get together or be private and individual and not have everyone here on their phone call. We're using these in UCI's libraries has purchased them. And on the health side, some unexpected areas like autism clinics, where people that just have different needs for space can go in there and not be overstimulated by everything else that's going on around them. Next slide. So our name is bluespace Interiors, but you can take us outside as well. We do a large amount of outdoor furniture. Post-COVID, outdoor furniture in institutions and in the commercial business arena has become much more popular. Next slide. We have everything from basic tables and chairs, next slide, to outdoor site furniture, and everything in between, and all sorts of budget areas that we can meet with.
Yeah, and this is an area that we do very well and can help you with idea starters or where to start if you haven't thought about utilizing your outdoor space in a different way. We are seeing, obviously, our beautiful California weather. People want to get outdoors and more of a need of this in the education space post-COVID. But right now, we've got over $1 million in projects going on with UC campuses, specifically for outdoor. So we're helping some of the other campuses, and we'd love to, and some UCI projects already, but we'd love to help the rest of you with your departments.
Next slide. Thank you, Sam.
Yeah.
Labs need furniture too, and this is an area that's commonly overlooked. Maybe you go to your science vendors for this, but there's a lot of particulars in this that we can help with, including getting the right materials for the kind of science you're doing, whether that's the casters, right casters for a hard floor, or the seating material that's going to stand up to the corrosive chemicals that are used in a lab. Next slide. Break areas. There are a lot of break areas around the UC campus, more than a typical commercial business, because every department has their own break area. Just about everything in this picture, except for the kitchen sink and possibly the dishes, is available from bluespace Interior, including the cabinetry. And we do a lot of it. Next slide. And seriously, we don't do the plumbing. We'll leave that up to facilities management and your plumbers, who know all your codes and can get that done. But all the cabinetry, we know how to meet the codes. We know what's expected at the University of California and can help with that.
Yeah, we do have 5 active projects going on for UCI, so definitely if you're a department out there and this is a need for you, you can lean on us for it.
Yes. Next slide, please. All right. One of the other things that has really changed as people work in more hybrid areas and are coming in and using hotel spacing is places to stow, basically lockers. And we have everything from the same kind of clangy metal lockers that you had in junior high school to more upscale lockers like you see here that have digital locks for one-time use, like you'd see in a hotel safe, and even power stations mounted inside. And next slide. And next space are the educational spaces. So you're a university, you've got a classroom or two around, and Samantha will talk a little bit about what we can do in the educational spaces.
Yeah, absolutely. So educational spaces are a huge passion of ours and obviously a huge passion of everyone on this call today. And we design for all different education spaces, and we work with manufacturers, actually one of the largest manufacturers in education furniture, which is KI. And what we've seen is that we are designing spaces right now and installing in universities that children going into TK or kinder will sit in one day. So we are designing furniture that is meant to last a lifetime. If you want to jump to the next one, that we also want to make sure there's flexibility. And what we're seeing more often than not is that you guys need just as much flexibility in the classroom to adjust for the way that you're teaching. So we have everything from maker spaces and storage units that are mobile and flexible, to classroom seating that does the same. If you want to jump to the next one. These have been really a great way for the UC campuses to rearrange a classroom and achieve everything of the different learning types that may take place in a class. Students love pushing these tables and chairs together to make pods and have a conversation or work on a project, and then switch into more of a lecture capability that you see here. And on the next one, when we think lecture, at the highest level, we think lecture hall and auditorium. We can help you with everything from a fixed seat to maybe a fixed table and a mobile chair, or fixed seating and mobile seating. So any of your spaces like theaters, auditoriums, we are specialized in fixed seating and have the right team to help you with this. It is very specific to how it is installed, and we are experts in this. So again, it's a great area that people don't often think of, or as you elevate those spaces or need to redo those spaces, or maybe you need to add ADA updates. This is an area that we can definitely help you with.
All right, so now is going to be a time to let's have our quiz question. And at the same time, if you have questions, there'll be a time for open mic, if you will, at the end to ask those questions. We encourage you to do so. If you don't want to speak in front of 94 people, you can drop them in chat as well, or you can email us. So the question that you've all been waiting for. We had talked about an office that we call a prerequisite, an entry-level office for a new faculty member or a new staff member. What is the cost of that office? It looks like a lot of you were really paying attention. And we'll let Doreen tell us who was actually first.
So
Fantastic.
Jacqueline Myers, congratulations. You were the first person to answer correctly. So,
Wow. I must have
Jacqueline,
told.
please put your email in the chat there so Ken can be in touch with you. And why don't we go to the next slide, and we can also get bluespace's contact information. Thank you.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much for your time today and allowing us to share. And reach out to us anytime. Don't hesitate. UCI at bluespaceinteriors.com. It goes into a general mailbox that will get forwarded to the appropriate person right away. My email is ken@bluespaceinteriors.com. Most of us on this call, same type thing. Reach out to us. We get, as a team, over 100 emails from UCI a day. Let's make it 200. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Ken, Samantha, Ward. Appreciate you all taking the time to share with all of our departmental buyers who are in this call what you can offer and what you can do for UCI. We appreciate your partnership and we appreciate you being there to help and support our campus. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Back at you, Snehal, and all of UCI. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right. We will get to the next section of our session. And for that, I would like to introduce Brianna Klett, who is one of our senior strategic sourcing commodity buyer, and also Andrew Calderon, who is the contracts manager for the procurement team. And the two of them are going to walk you through some of the sourcing tips that you all may want to, be paying attention to.
Thank you so much, Snehal, and thank you, bluespace team, for that great presentation. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Brianna. I'd like to kick off our conversation of supplier sourcing tips by really going through the first step of the journey in this process. And that would be, you could do next slide, please. That would be contracted suppliers. When we say contracted supplier, what we mean is they've been selected through a formal competitive bidding process, such as an RFP, and then they're awarded a master agreement for that particular use case. Using contracted suppliers is your first stop, as I mentioned, in sourcing, because they satisfy many of the UC and federal fund requirements that we have for how to source both goods and services. They make your compliance documents a lot easier to complete, which in turn can lead to faster processing times. Just a reminder though, just because you see a supplier onboarded in KFS does not mean that they are a contracted supplier. Similarly, if another department is using a particular supplier for either a good or service, that does not necessarily make them a contracted supplier in this case for sourcing. The best way for you to find out who is a contracted supplier is to use any of these resources we've listed here. That includes our UCI specific contracted supplier list, which we've incorporated UCOP system-wide agreements into, the DGS website, various cooperative groups that we're a part of, like ENI, Omnia, Vizient, and OC SoCal Procurement Alliance. Please make sure when you're looking up these agreements that your use case specifically matches the one that was awarded for that contracted supplier. If you have any questions about this, please feel free to reach out to procurement services and we'd be happy to help you navigate this conversation. Next slide. In addition to the compliance benefits I just mentioned, using contracted suppliers also gives you access to a whole host of items, including negotiated pricing, preferable terms, good quality products, reliability, dedicated customer service, and so many more. Next slide. However, one of the best resources we have for leveraging contracted suppliers is UCI Buy, which I know most of you are familiar with. We've talked about quite often during our trainings. UCI Buy allows you to shop commonly purchased goods, not services, from over 40 contracted suppliers. It allows for comparison shopping, saved favorites, order tracking, and order history. So in addition to all the benefits I mentioned earlier when using contracted suppliers, the added benefits of using UCI Buy will include things like single sign-on, so you don't have to remember your credentials. The vendors are already fully onboarded, so you don't have to worry about that. You get streamlined requisitions with pre-populated fields, and oftentimes approvals are much faster. Additionally, that catalog pricing that you see listed on UCI Buy is the quote, So there's no need for that additional step, and you can place an order for any dollar amount. We have some great training videos and documentation, both on the Procurement Services website as well as UCI Buy itself, where our amazing UCI Buy expert and e-commerce manager, Barbara Neiman, has taken the time to really walk you through each part of the process, give you additional details. So please check those out should you have any questions. And if you want to work with her directly, please email her at ucibuy@uci.edu. With that starting point, I will now pass it off to my team member, Andrew Calderon, for further sourcing tips.
Yeah, thank you, Brianna. Good afternoon, everyone. So continuing along on this thought process of how do we source suppliers, one thing to keep in mind is that while the UCI Buy catalogs and the contracts, the master contracts, are available for your large purchases, the benefits actually apply from $1 and beyond. So you don't necessarily need to use them exclusively for large purchases. The benefits and the values apply for all purchases, but they are especially helpful too when you need to potentially consider some additional policies with regards to how you source because of the spend. And that's what we're going to get into next. So there we are on that slide. All right, so when you determine that an existing master contract or an existing UCI Buy catalog is not available, the thing you need to start looking at is first, what is it you want to buy, the specifications, the requirements, and then determine your estimated spend threshold, because your spend threshold is going to determine what additional policies apply for how you go about sourcing that particular supplier. Even if you are able to source a supplier through an informal process, that is just getting quotes, getting estimates or proposals, we do always recommend that you get multiples so that you can compare and contrast between the different suppliers to ensure that we're getting a good deal, that we're getting no more and no less of the services or goods that we necessarily want. If it turns out, as you estimate your spend, that you are going to go over a threshold that requires your area to conduct a formal competitive bid, note that you need to do that through central procurement. It's not something that you can conduct within your department. Again, there's a difference between informal competitive bid and then just the formal competitive bid process that procurement does. Those are two very different things. Last thing to keep in mind is that if, as you're going through the sourcing process, you determine that, okay, yeah, I need to go through a formal bid. No, instead, I'm just going to sole source this supplier. Unfortunately, sole sourcing is not a supplier selection method. You can't simply decide you're going to do it. Sole sourcing is something that comes about, as we've talked in past trainings, that is unfortunately a default position because you, after a thorough and complete search, have determined there are no other suppliers available that can provide this kind of service. That's the key. You can't get too granular and say, well, I want to buy a car that begins with the letter F and ends with the letter D, and that's my specification, so I'm only going to buy Ford vehicles. Doesn't work that way. It's the kinds of services. Okay. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned earlier, that the threshold for how much, or the amount of spend and that threshold is one of the factors that determines can you source a supplier informally versus formally. It also depends on the fund source. So there's different rules that apply for non-federal funds. And that first threshold begins at $10,000, whereby you must source using a certified small business. And then if you exceed $100,000, again, that's where the threshold requires you to select the supplier through a formal competitive bidding process. Federal funds, the thresholds are similar, but there are different requirements that apply. Small Business First does not apply to federal fund purchases, but with federal fund purchases at $10,000, you must obtain multiple quotes from suppliers through that informal process. Again, collecting quotes, estimates, proposals. But once you reach $100,000 of spend, then you must conduct a formal competitive bid to select that supplier. So one additional policy that also needs to be addressed related to supplier sourcing, but is not necessarily tied to the spend, is your conflict of interest policy. Oftentimes, the department wants to hire someone who either is a current or a recently separated UC employee, which potentially raises conflict of interest issues. So that policy needs to be addressed in those situations, regardless of the amount of spend. So it's just something to keep in mind. You need to clear that before you start that process. Okay, next slide. Thank you. So as you determine that you're able to conduct your sourcing through an informal process, a lot of times then it's, where do we begin? Well, once you have your scope or your specifications and you know approximately how much it's going to cost, you can search for suppliers using the Supplier IO database. Yes, that's where we go to confirm a supplier is or is not a certified small business, but you can use that database regardless of whether you have to satisfy small business first, right? The idea is it's a database of suppliers. You can find out what they do and what they provide. And then as an added bonus, if it turns out you need to address a small business first policy, you already have the information from that database. Asking for recommendations by word of mouth, whether that's other UCI departments, other UCs, other higher ed institutions or consortium groups, trade groups, pretty much anybody who's similarly situated and can provide you with a recommendation on a supplier. Hopefully it's a good recommendation, or it might be someone to avoid as well too, right? The key is you want to make sure that if you're inquiring about a particular supplier, be aware that how that campus sourced them or their use case may be different. So even if they ended up with a contract, if their use case was for something that's completely different than what we're buying, there may be some additional policies that apply. And note also that the mere fact that that other campus, that other UC has an existing or a past contract with them, again, that does not make them a contracted supplier. Contracted supplier, again, is somebody who's chosen through a formal bid selection process, and that contract only covers the scope within which was bid, okay? So once you obtain your list of capable suppliers and you obtain their quotes and contrast, then you can move forward with your purchase, again, provided you've met the thresholds and the policies for sourcing that supplier. If during that process, it turns out that the estimates come back much higher, over $100,000. Again, note that you cannot simply decide, well, we're just going to go with one of these and I'm going to sole source it, because the fact is you did find multiple suppliers. And at that point, then we would need to go out to a formal bid process. Okay, next slide. Oh, sorry, I did want to mention too, you can always reach out to central procurement, right, through a ServiceNow ticket, asking for assistance in trying to locate some suppliers. So that would be the last option there too as well. We're here to be a resource for you, so don't feel like you're just out there on your own. Go through that ServiceNow process and we can try to assist you as well. Okay, next slide. Something specific that you want to consider, especially with software, cloud services, IT services, is that while we don't typically think of the security requirements as a sourcing policy or requirement to meet, it really is, because if that supplier does not meet the UC security requirements, then we're simply not going to be able to use them. So in addition to considering the spend, considering your fund source, and whether you can go out to informally try to gather a supplier to use their services or buy their software, and this will also apply as well to consultants that might have access to our systems or might utilize data in providing their consultancy. You have to remember that if they're going to access data, you need to undergo a supplier security review, and they need to pass before we can get those services started. So again, that's another element that you have to consider in sourcing your suppliers. Get that done early so that you can rule a supplier in or out in a particular use case. We highly recommend utilizing your unit information security leads as a good resource on that security and privacy issue. They may not be able to decide it for you, but they can help you get started. Remember that any PO that might have security issues related to it, you have to upload the OIT risk assessment or their ticket response that no further security review is needed, and you need to include that with your requisition. If it's not included, it's going to cause delays. We may have to disapprove the PO and send you back to the line to get that done before we can move forward, and we don't want to do that. So please make sure all those prerequisites are done well ahead of time. Okay, next slide. All right, so just a quick recap. Again, we wanted to be brief so that we can allow time for some questions, and I know some people have put some in the chat. But again, focus on your spend in terms of going through and determining where and how to source suppliers. Look first for those UCI catalogs. Look first for those UCI and UCOP master agreements. Utilize those suppliers as often as possible because of the benefits they provide, pre-negotiated pricing, pre-negotiated terms. Keep in mind too that if you are placing a very large order, you can reach out to central procurement to ask for assistance in trying to get additional discounts or additional perks from that master contract. Be aware of, if you determine that you can source the supplier directly, be aware of those additional thresholds that impact how you need to go about searching for suppliers, whether it's small business first for non-federal fund purchases, or whether it's multiple quotes for federal fund purchases. And then again, keep in mind that $100,000 threshold, right? We really need everyone in the departments to be the eyes and ears that as someone's pursuing a purchase, if it's gonna be over $100,000, make sure you sound the alarm and say, hey, if it's gonna be that much, we either have to find an existing master contract or we may need to go out to bid ourselves, right? Utilizing central procurement is a requirement for conducting the formal competitive bids. We're happy to help, but it does take a little bit of work to get that process coordinated. So identify those situations early on and reach out as soon as possible. All right, and with that, I think that's the last of our information. We'll open it up to some question and answer time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brianna and Andrew, for walking through some of these policy requirements and also giving some ideas on what the departmental buyer should be mindful of when they are looking at purchases, particularly those that are large dollar purchases. As both of them mentioned, we are here as a resource to help all the departments with their purchases, particularly the large dollar purchases. And we strongly recommend that you reach out to us and take advantage of our presence and, allow us to help you make sure that, you're getting the products and services you need from the right sources and in the right manner. We also would like to remind everybody to fill out the survey, just so we get an idea of what are the type of topics and things that you are interested in getting more information on, those that could be more confusing or need more training. We'll be more than happy to help with that. And also share, if some of you have some additional needs to learn more about any of the particular topics, then I'm sure others would be interested in it too. And we can schedule those in our subsequent training sessions.
Snehal, I see Michelle put a question in the chat, and I believe that I kind of guess which vendor she's talking about. If I can confirm, it's Signature Party Rental.
Yes, it is Signature.
Yes. Okay. So I
Okay,
just wanted to
let me read the question first, Shauna.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. Just because anyone watching our recording is not going to know what the question was. So the question is, we have a contracted supplier who's asking for signature, a service agreement before scheduling an event. However, we were told by the pallet card office that they shouldn't need that, and as they are a contracted supplier with UCI, how do we move forward?
Thank you, Doreen. Sorry. Yes, so this is a conversation that's going on with Signature. I believe they've had a lot of new people come on. I have heard differing um, back history about PAL card purchases versus PO, where when it's a PAL card, you do need to sign. But nevertheless, I will be getting clarification from them. Those conversations are ongoing. In the meantime, if they are requesting you to sign something, please send it to me and I will work directly with you on that.
Thank you, Shauna. I wanted to just read Edward's question as well, even though we answered it in the chat. Does small business first apply to a contracted supplier? So if you're using a contracted supplier, the purchase is exempt from small business first. Do we have any other questions?
Michelle, did you get the answer you're looking for? You'll reach out to Shana and she'll help you with it.
Yes, I did. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Any other questions that the team can answer? If not, we thank you all for taking the time to attend this session. Hopefully you found it to be beneficial and useful, and we hope you will continue to attend our sessions and we can be of help to you all as and when you all need it. So thank you again and have a wonderful rest of the day and the week. Bye.